Olympia Prize Fighter is a warrior hero from the Heavy Hitters set released in January 2024 of the Flesh and Blood TCG. Hi, I'm Steelfur of Steelfur Speaks, a Flesh and Blood YouTube channel, been going for about 6 years. I do a lot of honest commentary on the state of the game, the state of the meta, reviewing events, those kind of things. If you like that, like and subscribe to the channel. In this series, I am made a series of new player hero guides, which basically break down each hero among their mechanics, their accessibility and their depth, giving them a rating out of 5 and telling new players whether or not they are good choices for new players to play. We don't go into deck text, though we do talk about strategy and key cards. That's just because decks change a bit too often and I want these videos to be a bit more evergreen. There are great deck texts available both on my own channel and other channels that look into how each individual hero plays. So let's break it down with Olympia Prized Fighter. Olympia spent his early years as a beggar, surviving on scraps, in the moat of the deathmatch arena. However, destiny had other plans for him, as he would rise from the littered streets to become the undefeated deathmatch champion. His journey has been a gruesome spectacle, from his bloody first fight to his relentless streak of title defenses, earning him nicknames like the Eternal and Prized. Olympia Prized Fighter is the golden boy of the deathmatch arena where Heavy Hitters is set. He is the prized champion. His path is showered in gold, and he is, lauded as one of the greatest fighters, but the other heroes in the set are coming for that crown, obviously. So, how does he work? His ability is very straightforward. He's a warrior hero, 4 intellect and 40 health, which is the basic benchmark for adult heroes in Flesh and Blood. The first time each of your attacks wins a wager, you create a gold token. Nice and simple. Wagering is an optional conditional effect that you will add to attacks that basically offers the opponent a token, or you will get a token. So a wager, for example, I would say I wager for gold on the attack that has wager for gold on, so it's called wager gold. And if I hit with wager gold, I will get a gold token, and if you fully block wager gold and do not take any physical damage from it, then you create a gold token. In this case, if I had won that wager, I would create 2 gold tokens because I have Olympia Prized Fighter as my hero ability. And you can see that in practice here on his specialization, which is a blue card that costs X, and you choose X plus 1. Target attack wagers an agility token with a defending hero. Target attack wagers a gold token with a defending hero. Target attack wagers a vigor token with a defending hero, and target attack gets plus X, where Y is the number of times it has been wagered, and this is an attack reaction. So for 3 resources, you could wager an agility, a gold, and a vigor onto an attack, and also give it plus 3 attack. Seems pretty good to me. Then if that attack followed on to hit, you would get an agility token, which gets blown up at the start of your turn and says that the next attack you give has go again. You get a vigor token, which gets blown up at the start of your next turn and says you get 1 resource. You get a gold token, which sits on the table, and you may pay 2 resources, destroy it with go again as an action, to draw a card on your turn. So this is giving you a flavor of what Olympia does. He wagers on attacks, and then he uses attack reactions to make those wagers hit, and getting the tokens and the benefits through it. An example of an attack reaction as well that he plays, something like take the upper hand, so play only if you've wagered, target attack gets plus 3. Now Olympia is interesting from a warrior perspective, because traditionally most warriors have had attack reactions that specifically buff weapon swings rather than normal attacks. However, one of the things you'll notice about both of these attack reactions is they do not buff weapon swings exclusively. That is because Olympia as a fighter is capable of doing more than just swinging with a weapon. As a warrior, he has access to a lot of other non-weapon swing focused cards. So where someone like Dorinthia might entirely focus on weapons, or Kasai focuses on swinging weapons twice, Olympia is much more happy to mix in some wagers, mix in some wager attacks, and still use his attack reactions to buff those. That means that he has quite a flexible playstyle. Moving us on to mechanics, is that although he is weapon focused with attack reactions, he also has the option to mix in some attack actions that focus on wager. He has that emphasis on wager, and I think wager itself loses points in terms of accessibility and mechanical score, because it is more complex for a new hero to decide when to wager, because you need to understand the impact of the tokens that you're giving, both on you if you get them and your opponent if they choose to block, because otherwise you might just keep wagering and your opponent keeps blocking and then using the tokens that they won on the wager to punish you. So you need to kind of try and figure out, when is my opponent going to block? How much are they going to block for? Are they going to let me win the wager? If I lose the wager, what does it mean? If I win the wager, what does it mean? There's a level of complexity there that I think it makes it a bit more difficult for new players. So I think that's just something worth keeping in mind. He does, however, also have a warrior equipment suite, which means he has a lot of block available to him. He has a lot of block available on his armor, which means he can dodge a lot of on-hit effects. Most warrior armor pieces have at least 2 block available to them, if not 2 block with temper. And that means that he can block a lot of damage and makes it quite forgiving mechanically. He also has a lot of high block values on his warrior cards, which again, quite forgiving mechanically, one of the reasons that he's on 3 stars. And he can include that variety of attacks we talked about, so it's not just weapon entirely. The weapons are still going to be a big focus for him. So he has sort of a mix of weapons and attacks, a good mix of attack reactions, an emphasis on wager, and a lot of high block value. I think the reason he doesn't get 5 stars, because this is quite a good and flexible suite for new players to be interacting with, is that I think the wager does add a mechanical layer of complexity that makes things a bit more complicated. And also trying to decide when you're going to wager tied to what attack reactions you have available, and the distinction that attack reactions now work on weapons and attacks, but some only work on weapons and some only work on attacks, means that it's hard to, mechanically this will be a bit more difficult to play, even though he has a very straightforward hero ability. Accessibility, though, is definitely up there. His hero ability is very simple. So although wager is quite complex, he does actually have a lot of accessibility there. One of the reasons for that is that gold generation smooths out bad turns. I said already that gold is a 2-tossed item that sits on your board. You may pay 2 resources and destroy it during your turn to draw a card with go again. That means that if you have a bad turn, which is all blues, and you have no threats to send towards your opponent, then you can destroy that gold and potentially draw a red to attack with. Additionally, if you have no go again for your weapon, or you have no attack actions, you can do the same thing. Or if you have a full red hand, you can discard 2 reds to hopefully draw a blue, which will then pay for your 4th card and give you an option to threaten your opponent as well. So gold smooths out bad turns, which makes him quite forgiving. I would also say that this weapon attack or general attack into attack reaction playstyle is quite straightforward. So there is a bit of complexity added, which I think adds to mechanical confusion, which isn't that now some of the attack reactions might be on attacks and some might be weapon only. But once you understand that mechanics, I think it's very straightforward to be like, here's my weapon attack, I've still got 3 cards in hand, and now I'm just going to decide what I'm going to do based on how my opponent blocks. That's very reactionary, and it's very straightforward to play with. Because really your simple action of just pitch, swing with the weapon is so easy to commit that lots of players can be like, well, I don't have to do anything until I know what I'm doing. And the second they know what they're doing, it's very easy to play an attack reaction to sort things out. So I think that's actually giving him a lot of points for accessibility, both the gold and the fact that his playstyle seems to be fairly straightforward. He loses 1 point for wager just being quite complex for new players, but I think wager is also an interesting challenge for new players. It's one of the reasons that he gets quite a high depth score is the presence of wager as something that he can learn and new players can learn in terms of how to be more complex with their playstyles and how to read their opponent to decide whether or not it's a good time to wager or not. Also, of course, he gets more depth scores because of the flexibility of attack reactions and the fact that he has a huge suite of existing warrior attack reactions that do a lot of things that can be brought in later on to, change metas and change different playstyles. There's also this promise of future payoff. So as I'm making this video, he doesn't really have a payoff card for gold. He's just using it to smooth his turns. But LSS have pointed out that they have committed that he will be getting a payoff card for all the gold that he has. They just haven't printed it yet. So by the time you're watching this, it might be worth you going and seeing if there is a payoff card that has been printed for him and what that looks like. Because that could also impact his depth, as there is a late game payoff card that he can play into. So those are things just to work out. I think depth-wise, he has enough going for him in wager and flexibility of attack reactions that he can actually be quite a complex hero to learn. And I know he is exciting a lot of people. So when we get that additional payoff, I think he will be worth higher on the depth score. So based on all of those, I would say I'm giving him 4 stars. I think mechanically he's a bit trickier, and I don't think as clean as other warriors are, because they always focus on weapons rather than attacks, and he's kind of blending together, which can make him a bit more confusing. I think accessibility is quite good, especially because of the gold, and because I think once you've got your hands there, it is quite a clean play style. And then depth, I think because of wager and because of attack reactions and this hint about a future payoff, he should get 4 stars in total. I think if you're a new player and you pick up Olympia, you're going to have a good time. And you know what? One of the reasons I'm happy giving warriors higher scores maybe than others is that if you don't like Olympia, there is Kasai, there is Dorinthia, there are other warriors that you can use similar card sets for that will be quite fun to play with. So that's my Olympia guide. I hope you've liked it. If there are any questions I didn't answer, please do drop them in the comments. I am very committed to getting new players into the game, so if you drop a question there as a new player, I will attempt to answer it for you. As always, if you did like this video, please do like and subscribe. I am a content creator. I am fueled on people's adoration. I have been running this channel for 6 years. It features a ton of Flesh and Blood content, as well as a weekly, bi-weekly podcast that I do called Steelfur Speaks. I do event reviews. I do meta reviews. I talk about controversy, I cover the history of the game, I talk about all these kind of things. And if that sounds like the sort of thing you're kind of interested in, then give me a like and a subscribe, and I'll make sure to keep giving you that kind of content. If you want more new player guides, there is a playlist with all of these videos I was in. It should go from newest to oldest in terms of heroes when they were released. There may be some missing. It is a living project, so I do tend to take some down, update them. There might be an older video that has the way the hero was 2 years ago in that's still there to watch, or I'm in the process of constantly sort of taking down a few and uploading them. When you're watching this, it may have just come out with heavy hitters, so I may still be working through the initial wave of redoing these, so just bear with me and they'll be up soon. Thank you all for listening, and I'll speak to you all soon.